So, hi everyone. Thank you all for coming to this somewhat short notice meeting of the Oversight Committee. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 9 p.m. sharp. And we'll first begin with the Territorial Acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the SFSS is located on the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. Unceded means that these territories have never been handed over, sold, or given up by these nations, and we're currently situated on occupied territories. We'll now move on into the roll call of attendance. I'll start off with myself. Hi everyone, I'm Ben Tischler, pronouns are he, him, and all of my access needs are met. Next, we'll move on to cognitive science.
Yeah, hey everyone. Name is Aaron, pronouns he, him. Access needs, I am just unable to turn on my camera right now, but other than that, I'm good. Yep.
Next up is communications.
Hi, I'm Alan, pronouns are he, him, and all my access needs are met.
English. Gabe, you're on mute.
Sorry, I didn't hear you call on me. Hey everyone, my name is Gabe Leosis. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm calling in from the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And my access needs are met, other than I am calling in from my car and I'm on data, so I have no idea when my technology may or may not crap out on me. But I'm here otherwise.
Next up, film.
Hi all, my name's Jordan Huneman. My pronouns are he, him, all my access needs are being met.
History.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Reed. My pronouns are he, him. I'm calling in from the stolen and unceded lands of the Katsistolo Semiahmoo Coast Salish people, as well as the Sonic. My pronoun, we went through that. All my access needs are currently met, other than I'm a little bit tired as this meeting is taking place at 9:02 p.m.
And last for counselors in attendance today, Women's Center.
Hi everyone, my name is Nam, pronouns she, they. My access needs are met, and I'm calling in from the stolen unceded territories of the Kwantlen and Samiahmoo nations. Yeah, I actually, in terms of access needs, I do really hope we finish before 10. I promised my brother I'd watch Obi-Wan with him, and he's a little upset that I'm not there right now, but yeah, so.
And last but not least, for society staff on the call today, Simmer, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Simmer. I go by he and him, and all my access needs are met.
All right. So we don't have anything in the consent agenda for today. So we'll proceed directly on to the adoption of the agenda. The motion reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. Can I get a mover?
Cogs.
Cognitive science moves. Gabe, I'll take it as you seconding. All right. Is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? If somebody wants to make amendments to the agenda, now would be the time. Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote on this. So I'll seek unanimous consent. If you'd like to object, please use the Zoom raise hand feature and I'll record your vote. Seeing no objections, the agenda is adopted, and we'll now move on into the motion to go in camera for the day. We have one in-camera discussion item today, discussion about recent email sent by a member of the executive committee. The motion reads, be it resolved to go in camera for the remainder of the meeting. Can I get a mover?
Cogs.
Cogs moves. Is there a second?
Film.
Film seconds. So I will seek unanimous consent on the motion to go in camera. If you'd like to object, please use the Zoom raise hand feature and I will record your vote. Seeing no objections, the motion to go in camera is carried, and I will. So welcome back, everyone. Just pull up where we are in our agenda. So now we're on the motion to go ex camera. So is there a mover to go ex camera?
Nim.
Cogs.
Cogs. I heard Cogs
Women's
first.
Center.
Nim, do you want a second?
Yeah, Women's Center, sorry.
Sure. So I'll seek unanimous consent. If you'd like to use the Zoom raise hand feature to object, please do so now and I'll record your vote. Seeing no objections, the motion is carried unanimously and we are now ex camera. We will move into the next motion, which is a motion titled Investigation Recommendation that reads as follows. Whereas an email was sent by a member of the executive committee to the entire executive committee and a number of SFU stakeholders external to the SFSS at 1:57 p.m. on June 14th, 2022. Whereas concerns have been raised by members of the OCEO that said email could potentially give rise to violation or violations of Rule 5 and Rule 9 of council policies, as it appears that a topic discussed in camera at the executive committee meeting on the same day was discussed within the email. Whereas the CCBC, as a committee solely tasked with investigating breaches of confidence, is a more appropriate committee to investigate this issue. Be it resolved that the OCEO recommend to the CCBC to immediately begin an investigation into the above mentioned email sent by a member of the executive committee. Can I get a mover?
Cogs.
Cogs moves. Second.
Film.
I saw film first, so I'll give it to film for a second. Gabe, you have a list.
Thanks, Ben. I want to move to postpone the motion to the next regularly scheduled OCEO meeting to do some more fact finding to back up this recommendation.
Is there a second on the motion to postpone?
History.
History seconds. So if there's discussion at this point, please go ahead and list yourself. I will list myself. I strongly disagree with the course of action to postpone the motion. I don't think it's appropriate based on the urgency of the matter discussed. And I think that CCBC does present a more applicable venue to discuss this matter in, and I would strongly encourage a no vote on the motion to postpone. Is there any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. As I would imagine, this vote will be contested, and this committee is small. I think we can do this by roll call vote easily. So I'll just go down the list.
In favor.
Just make sure I have this count right. With 4 against and 3 in favor, the motion to postpone is not. We'll respond to what you said. While I agree that in normal circumstances, I believe the OCEO does have a role to play, I don't believe these circumstances warrant that, and that is why I will be voting in favor of this motion today to recommend this to CCBC, as I think given the urgency of the matter, it is what is wise in this case. But Gabe, go ahead.
I understand your concern, Ben. I still just think we are relying on speculation too much. And so a question that I have for the folks who voted against the motion to postpone, I mean, it was a motion to postpone to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Perhaps we even, a suggestion I have is postpone even just like a few days, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, to just get even a little more information, because I think we're relying way too heavily on speculation, and we need more information doing this tonight. Because I don't agree with passing this motion with the information that we have.
Matthew, you're up next.
To further what Gabe said, and to kind of refer back to a previous instance within this current rendition of the OCEO committee that was discussed ex camera as well. So I have no issues talking about this. In regards to what we were talking about in our previously scheduled OCEO meeting, everyone was universally opposed just looking into an investigation on one of the executive members of the one of the executive officers. I don't see how this is any different, like to just kind of like go after something without any sort of concrete information. That seems a little bit off given previous. Right now, all we're doing is speculation. I think Rio said when we were discussing this about Nikki. It was Rio that said, like, hey, let's hold off. There's a whole lot of speculation here. Let's hold off, get some more information first, and then let's revisit this. And then you can revisit this at a...
Aaron, you're next on the list.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I believe it's like merely like looking into it in a sense because of the fact that CCBC has more abilities to do so than Oversight.
Rio, you're next on the list.
Yeah, I basically seconding everything Aaron just said is to the best of my knowledge, forwarding this to a group that has better resources and I have to assume more experience with these sort of investigations. I personally didn't see a downside in doing that sooner rather than later, and I do after hearing Ben's what Ben said, I do see some potential issues with going too slowly, unlike with the Nikki thing.
People know that, like, I do have concerns. I think it's concerning that a member of the executive committee felt that they needed to...
doors, and there's been things going on that aren't what should be happening. And once again, I'm really going to say, like, I'm not saying you have to be friends. I'm not saying you have to even like each other. What I'm more just saying is that...
Strict, and it's becoming more and more of a thing for me to realize that. My apologies.
Nim?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it, but like